Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Didn't you say you always hated this movie?
Yeah.
And then brought it up as something to watch for the show?
Many times, yeah.
Well, we finally got around to it. Happy?
I really am.
All this and more on Gory Story Time.
Warning. Gory Storytime is a horror movie review show by a son and his dad who thought that letting his 5-year-old watch scary movies was acceptable. If you are offended by horror or talk about blood and gore by a child, or if you don't want horror movies from the 60s through today spoiled, then there is a remote stuck in your couch cushion next to potato chip crumbs. Use it. And of course, parental discretion is advised.
Why? You didn't use any.
Shut up and start the show.
Welcome to Gory Story Time. I'm your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and his father, Craig. And this week, we're getting around to a movie I hadn't seen since I was 8, and he hadn't seen...
Correct.
I mean, that was the end of that statement.
Yes.
All right. And I'm sure I'll tell why. Basically, here's the premise. Stephen King likes to find things that aren't scary and then scare you. He's like, you know what's not scary? A big, friendly St. Bernard. How do we do that? Rabies.
Oh, yeah.
Let's make that big, friendly beast be a big beast and no longer friendly. That's
Indeed,
basically... The premise is there's a couple, they're having some troubles or whatever, but they have a vehicle that keeps having issues, and someone suggests, hey, take it to this guy that works out of his backyard. He's got a big old lumbering St. Bernard, just a big old friendly dog.
Big dog.
And it gets into some bats, gets bit, gets rabies, and then a few days later, something else happens to the car, so the wife brings it to the same guy and gets trapped there with her son because the rabid dog will not let her out and the car won't start, which is why she brought it there in the first place.
Pretty cool.
I mean, that's
a great way to set up a movie.
That's the premise, right?
It is.
And it doesn't really spoil anything because that's the
story of Cujo, is big, scary St. Bernard.
Basically. Anything else you want to say about the premise before we show the trailer?
Watch it first before we spoil everything for you.
It's almost like he says that every week.
I try to, unless it's like
really
atrocious.
Bad. And then he says, watch it with fear in your heart.
Yes.
All right. Colin, why don't you roll that trailer for him?
Nothing that lives in the imagination is more frightening than the terror that lives in Castle Rock, Maine.
Cujo?
Cujo?
Can he get us in here? Can he eat his way in here? Can he?
Oh my God, I'm losing my baby.
From the novel by Stephen King, creator of Carrie and The Shining, comes a startling vision of fear.
Please, God, get me out of here.
Now There's a new name for terror. Cujo.
Well,
Alrighty.
yeah.
Not a bad trailer. Didn't give
Not a
away
bad
too much.
trailer.
Did things in a way where it's only revealing if you already have seen it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Kind of.
this is out of order. This is here, and so it doesn't ruin things. That's not too bad. Now, before we get into the behind the scenes information, we got to explain why we're actually here. See, what 283 episodes?
I think that's
in.
getting the nod.
Yeah. And you would think that that's about our love for horror movies.
Ha.
And it partially is. But what it
Fools.
really is was I said one day, how can I make money? Selling myself and promoting people's products. But how do I do that? I need somewhere to put commercials. So
Right.
that I just said, hey, let's watch horror movies and review them, and then we'll pimp ourselves out to whatever companies exist.
Indeed.
This week, they sent a giant styrofoam check to our house to get us to say these words. Gory Storytime is brought to you by the new game, Great. Now I'm afraid of... The premise is simple. There's a deck of cards. 2 players each pick a card from the pile with one word written on it that's been used to frighten people in horror novels or movies. A third player judges as each tries to prove their thing is the scarier thing. The winner of the round gets the point and becomes the judge for the next round. You play until someone reaches 10 points. Great. Now I'm afraid of... is quick to play, easy to learn, and lots of fun. Great. Now I'm afraid of... Coming soon from GST Games.
And by Backyard Auto Repair, the directory of mechanics who work from their homes. Why go to an expensive garage that only works on one brand of car? Backyard Auto Repair service technicians are not certified, so they work way cheaper. Why get new guaranteed parts when you can grab some out of the junkyard, which, by the way, is on the same land as the mechanic's home and garage? Backyard Auto Repair can get you back on the road for way less money. And remember, with Backyard Auto Repair, if you pay cash, you pay less.
All right. I think everybody knows one of those kind of mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's who does most of my work. I'm not naming names because I, don't know if you want.
It's not a plug, but...
Nope, but yeah. All right. Now, is there anything you want to say before we get into the behind-the-scenes information? Anything else other than watch it?
No.
All right. Then now is time for what Jason likes to call the meat and beef of the show.
Or, as I like to call it, the meat and beef of the show.
The behind-the-scenes information, as it were.
Yes.
You want to go first? Or you want me to?
5 St. Bernards were used. 1 mechanical head, a man and a dog, and a man in a dog costume.
To make the St. Bernards attack the car, animal trainers would put the dog's favorite toys inside the car so that they would try to get them.
The foam around Cujo's mouth was made of a concoction of egg whites and sugar. The dogs caused problems on set by constantly licking off the tasty mixture.
They're like, They're like, no, sit. And they're like, yummy. Let's see. Danny Pintaro actually bit Dee Wallace's fingers during his seizure scenes. Dee's reactions in the scene were quite real.
Wow.
Because she was being bitten.
Yeah.
So when she said ow, she meant that. That wasn't acting.
Right. Yikes. Stephen King has admitted several times that he was so deep into his alcohol addiction at the time that he does not remember writing the book.
Stephen King was inspired to write the story when he met his mechanic's intimidating dog while having his motorcycle repaired one day.
After the film, Dee Wallace went on record saying she hoped she'd never see another Pinto in her life.
Luckily, ever since the early 80s, people stopped seeing Pintos for the most part. Young star Danny Pintaro was only 6 years old at the time of the movie and had not learned how to read yet. He would often have to memorize his lines from the script with the help of his mother, who was always close by on location.
That's good. A Rottweiler was used for some of the scenes because they couldn't get the St. Bernard to look mean enough.
Stephen King has stated that he feels Dee Wallace gives the best performance in this film of any film or TV adaptation of one of his books, including the Oscar-winning turn Kathy Bates had in Misery.
Oh my goodness! I mean, it's really good.
She did a
really good job.
Like her, yeah.
Definitely convincing. Okay. Stephen King contributed substantially to the script, but eventually declined Writers Guild credit.
Stunt double Gene Coulter was in the car and had one of the toys used by the dog's trainers as a lure. The window was partially down. The dog jumped up and put his paws on the window, forcing it down. He reached in for his toy. Her reaction was to lower the toy, and the dog bit her nose. She was treated at the hospital and then released. There was a rumor at the time she had been bitten by a rabid dog, which was not true. But she was bitten by a dog that was playing a rabid dog, so I guess
there's still no need for that. Star Dee Wallace said she has often been praised by parents for the scene where a hysterical Donna screams at Tad in a moment of frustrated terror. She said it's a scene in which only a parent could identify.
Yeah, like, it's a real thing sometimes.
Which one's Tad? Tad was the kid? Okay, yeah. I thought so.
When she turned and she's just like, stop! Like, even though he wasn't really doing anything, but she was under a lot of stress, and unfortunately, a lot of parents have those moments. The best thing is to then apologize, which I believe she did.
Yeah.
The original novel was a sequel of sorts, following The Dead Zone. Since Frank Dodd was killed, he was a serial killer in that, he became a boogeyman in Castle Rock and haunted Tad. It's hinted that he might have even possessed Cujo in the book. Sheriff George Bannerman, played by Sandy Ward here, makes specific references to the Dead Zone hero Johnny Smith. Both this movie and the Dead Zone were being developed at the same time. This one released 2 months before by different studios, so the reference was removed.
A rumor has circulated that Cujo is an ancient Indian word meaning unstoppable force. In reality, Stephen King named the dog after the code name of William Lawton Wolfe, one of the founders of the
Symbionese
Liberation Army.
Symbionese?
Yeah. Wolfe's code name was actually spelled Kahjoh, which was misreported by the media as Cujo.
Donna takes Tad in the house for his nap after Vic fails to fix the car. The camera moves to a view of the woodlands and ocean in front of the house. The woodland area is the same location where The Howling was filmed, which also starred Dee Wallace.
That's cool.
Yeah.
At one point, the script for Cujo came to the acclaimed horror director John Carpenter. However, Carpenter passed on directing as he didn't find the story particularly appealing. John Carpenter would later direct the Stephen King film Christine, which came out of the same year as.
For me, stars Dee Stone were actually married at the time of the film.
Tad has a stuffed St. Bernard in his room, seen clearly in his first bedroom scene.
So that, for people to notice, hey, he already likes that kind of dog. The dogs featured in the film would often have their tails tied down to their legs because they were enjoying themselves so much they would wag during filming. This tactic was missed once in the editing, where they actually show Cujo from behind ready to attack, and his tail is wagging energetically. But that's kind of dope.
And definitely noticed it more than once.
Yeah, we definitely noticed it more than once. I pointed it out at the time. I'm like, you could tell the dog is happy. Like, this was a time when it was really iffy if they were mistreating animals on the set. And every shot of these dogs, they seemed very happy.
They were definitely into what they were doing.
Their trainers were treating them well. The people were treating them well.
They got to play with their toys.
Yeah. Now, Rotten Tomatoes is a thing, as you like to say.
And they exist, yes.
Just the shortened version, they take all the professional critics, they boil it down to, did they say positive or negative review for this movie? Yeah. And then they give you the percentage out of the total that is the positive number.
And the critics this week have this movie set at a 59% approval rating.
So 59% of those who reviewed it, which is not enough to be considered fresh, liked it. The people who usually are higher for comedies and horror, as I like to point out, actually have it at a 46, which means it's lower than.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Weird.
I agree. Now, I will say this. I read the book when I was in second grade. I was either 7 or 8, depends on what part of the year it was. I don't actually remember because I haven't been in second grade, for many years.
7th either, technically.
Well, sure. But I'm 45, so the last time I was 7 was a long time ago. Like 38 years.
Yeah, I was going to say more than 30 years.
Yeah, 38 years. Anyway, I then, after reading my mom's copy, asked her, or she said there was a movie. I was like, ooh, can you rent? Spoiler alert. I hated it at the time and hadn't watched it again until the other day with him.
For the first time in 38 years.
But literally, because I hated the ending so much, which we'll get into in our least and most favorite scenes, because I know that's
still your least?
Yes.
Yeah.
But since you liked this more than you didn't like this,
yes.
What was your least favorite scene in this movie?
Well,
and then I'll get to that.
Considering I don't think that it added much to the story, even if it was in the book. It didn't add a whole lot to the story. There was just, everybody was cheating. Everybody. So,
no.
Like, in both storylines that we were following, there was cheating going on.
But the husband wasn't.
There was abuse going on in one family, and there was cheating going on in that family, and then there's like the infighting in this family and that family, and it's like, so everybody's got problems. And none of it has anything to do with what I'm here for. I'm here for a big rabid dog, all right?
Sure, but how do you make a novel about that and have it, like, sustain?
They could have gone with the ghost guy possessed the dog.
I mean, again, it's kind of more hinted at in the book. But anyway, except the book also clearly says that the dog had rabies.
Both are possible. A rabid dog could have possibly also then been possessed by an evil guy.
So your part was everything that wasn't the dog?
Basically. Weirdly enough.
Any of the stuff that makes them rounded human beings, forget that noise. That's basically what he said.
Specifically the cheating. Like, it was like, this family had cheating, that family had cheating, I didn't need all the cheating.
I think the two things that made me hate the movie as a kid was I didn't care about the interpersonal relationships with the husband and wife and stuff. And to me, that part of the movie was boring. Like, it was fine reading it, but as a movie, I'm just sitting there going, get to the dog. Just get to the dog. Get to the dog. I was a kid. Like, I wanted the dog movie and the dog in the dog movie.
Right?
Even if it was the evil dog movie. Like, and the other part was, and that's what I'm picking now, if you haven't seen this or read the book,
turn away now.
Yeah, because I'm about to spoil it. In the book, the kid does not survive. He dehydrates in the car because the mom's too scared to get him out. Finally, she snaps, gets out, and basically beats the dog to death, rushes him inside, and tries getting water into him, putting it all over him, trying to get it in his mouth. And in the movie, it revives him, and he's not quite dead, and he's like, and the water helps. In the book, she's too late. And as a 7 or 8 year old, I was pissed. My mom looked at me, and she's like, why do you look upset? I'm like, he lived. And she's like, what? Like, she was very disturbed that I was mad at that. And I was like, listen, the kid died in the book. And she's like, yeah, but in movies they try to make things happy endings. And as a second grader, having read my first Stephen King story, I was like, obviously he didn't want you to feel happy. That's why he wrote the kid dying. Like, I picked up on that. I was like, you're not supposed to walk away from Stephen King going, I feel good. Like,
right?
awful things are supposed to happen and make you feel like crap. And they did in the book. And then this kid's just miraculously fine. And it's like, no. So what was your favorite? Let's talk about positives.
We've already mentioned it a couple of times, but throughout this movie, you can tell that these dogs were having the time of their lives. They absolutely were.
And we are dog people.
I'm definitely a dog person. And watching this movie, seeing the dogs enjoy themselves so much at a time when you could have very well had seen like a scarred up dog because they were beating the dog on set or something. Yeah. It's like these
you hear
dogs
about
were
Disney
loving
pushing
it.
lemmings off of a
cliff to prove that they suicide. Jump. And it's like,
and these guys were like murdering dog, foaming at the mouth, but the dog's like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I'm so happy.
Like these dogs couldn't get enough of it, and neither could I.
And as a dog lover, and don't get me wrong, I have had cats. I like cats. He doesn't, but whatever. That's,
Cats or whatever.
But as a dog lover, as an animal lover, knowing that they
were
didn't
definitely
mistreat
taking care of these animals.
Like seeing how happy the dog actually is. To the point where they had to mention it in the behind-the-scenes stuff.
More than once.
Right.
The dogs enjoyed themselves so much, they kept eating the props. It's like, okay.
How did we get them to get in? Oh, we put their
toys.
They were trying to open the door and smash the window because
every big fight
stuffed
scene,
animals they wanted to play with were inside.
Cujo was just like playing with the person on screen, and the person on screen had to make it look like an attack.
All right. Well, my favorite part, I would say, is just, I think, looking at it now with an adult's eyes and taking in the rest of the story and stuff, I think Dee Wallace just did an amazing job.
She did.
Like, she gets a lot of credit for E.T., but she should get a lot of credit for this too and other. Like she's been in a bunch of horror movies.
She did a really great job. Convinced me completely.
Yeah, like she seemed like a woman who felt bad about her cheating and was cutting it off.
Sure, we could have just started there.
Ended up being honest with her husband about it. She seemed like someone who really loved her kid. She seemed like a real mom. Like she had that moment where she's like, and then she's like, I am so sorry, and she apologized. Like
I don't know. This
she
movie
seemed
just
like
felt
a real person, not just someone acting. And
like altogether, this movie just felt real. Like it sounded like something I could have heard as a story. Like, oh my goodness, this happened down the street. Did you hear?
Exactly. So, yeah, I think it's the real, her specifically, but even the kid, like, for being a child actor.
Except for, like, the fun that the dog was having.
Yeah, except for the dog wagging his tail when he kept trying to eat people.
Right.
That was the only thing that seemed unrealistic.
At cars.
But you liked that anyway, so.
It was awesome.
All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, though.
I'm going to give it a 7.
I'm going to go 6.5, not because it wasn't well acted it's a movie that I will watch again now.
Yeah.
And like he waited 22 years, almost 23 years. Not every time I brought it up, I don't want to watch it because I had smack talked it so bad. And now it's like, you know what? We should watch that again. It's a good ass movie.
Yeah, it's a really good movie.
It is. So, but I still go 6.5 because it's Stephen King. The kid should have died.
I mean,
like,
honestly,
I'm not changing my mind on that. That's a sticking point. That that's what they did at the end of what was the other one with the things that came out of the.
Oh yeah, The Mist.
The Mist. Like
when everything was
they made the ending darker, and Stephen King liked it better. And you know what? I liked that ending better too. So because it's Stephen King, that's the biggest issue there. But anyway, all right. Let's do the stuff that's over there now that we've done our ratings.
So we can watch this show on Fact TV channel 1082, Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Fridays at 7 p.m.
You can like us on Facebook, and by us, as I always say, I mean Fact TV and Gory Storytime. We've each got pages.
You can go to Fact 8 Got.
Follow us on X. We don't talk. I'm at Craig Jakes, all one word, all lowercase.
I'm at Jiggly Firm Brain. I only tweet things that he says that I find funny and are out of context,
including the name Jiggly Firm Brain.
Yeah, that came from a tweet.
That actually fits the show because it was a horror-related comment that I made.
Kinda, yeah.
It was just for people that wonder. Friday the 13th movie, there was a girl bouncing around doing the normal girl stuff in those movies. And I was like, look at her brains, her jiggly firm brains. And anyway, there we go. And follow or check out my YouTube channel. Just type in Gory Storytime. The two channels that'll come up is mine and Fact TV. Like, subscribe, notification bell, all the fun stuff. Share, comment. We would love to interact with people if you like the show.
Yeah. And until next time, I have been your host, Jason.
I'm his co-host and father, Craig, and sweet dreams.